Hello everybody, my name is Ratnos. We have a new War Within beta build today, including the long-awaited Hunter changes. But first, we have Death Knight up at the top, with a hero talent change to Sand Lane, which is the Unholy and Blood one. Infliction of Sorrow has been redesigned. When Vampiric Strike damages an enemy affected by your Virulent Plague, it extends the disease by 3 seconds, deals 20% of the remaining damage to the enemy, and then after Gift of the Sand Lane ends, your next Scourge Strike consumes the disease to deal 200% of its remaining damage to the enemy. I think this is a good change. I think that Infliction of Sorrow used to be like random proc disease consuming on your next Scourge Strikes, and that created, I think, a pretty weird gameplay like structure. So making it instead so that you get one Scourge Strike guaranteed to do this that you can plan around, rather than potentially getting 3 in a 20-second window and potentially getting 0, is good. And then this part as well, Vampiric Strike just doing this by default, getting some extra extension is going to be nice, dealing some of the remaining damage. Hopefully this isn't enough of an incentive that you have to always make sure your Virulent Plague is over 15 seconds or something to be getting full value, or to be getting, otherwise it's worth refreshing it before Pandemic. Hopefully that doesn't create that incentive, and I don't know if it does, but this seems like a good redesign at least. And an issue has been fixed with Blood Beast numbers. Okay. Blood DK has a new talent, Carnage. Blood Drinker and Consumption now contribute to your mastery. Each time an enemy strikes your mastery shield, the cooldowns of Blood Drinker and Consumption have a chance to be reset. An interesting effect here, Mastery for Blood DK is only effective against physical damage. Presumably this means that you'll only have this chance to reset upon taking incoming physical damage while you have a blood shield up, which is not all the time. Not all the time that you're in danger are those conditions both met. In fact, a lot of the time, neither of those conditions will be met, or only one of them. But having these things fill up your mastery blood shield, that is kind of cool. I think there's a little bit of danger here that this is overkill value, especially on consumption. If there's a global that tops you versus a global that tops you and then overshields you for 30% of your health, there's maybe not a whole lot of difference in value there. So this may be over... This may not be a talent worth investing, but I'm not sure. This is cool. This is a cool idea. I like it. So I definitely want to play around with this thing, but I'm not sure that it'll be worth the talent point. Unholy, Decomposition now functions with Gargoyle. Ghoulish Frenzy and Improved Death Coil are both 1-point talents, but the value at 1 point is unchanged. So these aren't having the thing where they're getting buffed in terms of rate. They're just getting buffed in terms of how many points you have to expend to get deeper into the tree. But they're actually getting nerfed if you were wanting to invest 2 points into these nodes. If that was one of your better talent points, was just the investment there and you weren't using it to get deeper into the tree, the Unholy Tree has actually gotten a little bit weaker, although a little bit more flexible as a result. I don't know if that was true for these points, though. Apocalypse now always summons 4 ghouls, regardless of wounds burst. Okay, I like that. That makes it a little bit less punishing to screw up your Apocalypse. That's probably fine. Defile damage increased by 200% and no longer increases mastery when dealing damage to enemies. Okay, so making it a little bit more, again, kind of simple of an ability. All right, on to Druid. We have some Druid of the Claw changes. Aggravate Wounds is getting buffed. Killing Strikes is getting buffed. Chance for Ravage to proc is getting buffed. And Dreadful Wound is getting buffed for both Feral and Guardian, actually. And Ravage is also getting buffed only for Guardian. So they're just bringing up some of the numbers on Druid of the Claw. These sorts of internal, beta buffs and nerfs that are just basically percent increases to various effects tend to be the least interesting things for me, because I tend to have a really bad baseline of which of the hero talent trees are looking good any given week, and they change so quickly, so frequently anyways. So I don't really have any commentary to add on this sort of set of notes. Same with Keeper of the Grove here. They are buffing all of the numbers for both specs of a lot of different parts of Keeper of the Grove. Not something that I really have much of a take on, because these aren't really functional changes, right? These are just numbers changes, and the numbers are fluctuating a lot in beta. Evoker. So we have a redesign here for Chrono Warden, which is Golden Opportunity. Now says Prescience and Echo have a 20% chance to cause your next Prescience and Echo to have a 100% increased duration/effect. It used to be a slightly higher chance to be free and not trigger their cooldown. So you used to kind of be able to just random proc spam Presciences and get more Presciences out randomly, which was weird. Now instead you're going to have this sort of thing where you might get this proc, and then you know that your next prescience is going to have double duration, or your next echo is going to have double duration. For Aug, there may be some gameplay around this, but usually you'll probably just plan to never proc this, and then sometimes you will, and I don't know how reactive you can even be to that in terms of like getting better value out of that. Like in a key situation, that might mean that you randomly get to have your tank or healer get to have a prescience for a little while that they otherwise wouldn't. In a raid situation, if you're min-maxing Aug, again, you're probably like spreadsheet gaming and assuming you're never going to get this, but maybe there's some spots where you can kind of figure out like, oh, this is going to let me float a prescience on a good damage dealer for an extra 10 seconds or something. Maybe. I don't know. I still find this to be a pretty weird effect, though. It's no longer a choice node with Master of Destiny, and Instability Matrix is now a choice against Master of Destiny. I don't really remember what these ones were. Aug is also getting Echoing Strike now increases Azure Strike damage by 15%. Reactive Hide increases the damage of Blistering Scales by 15% per stack, was 10%. So they're buffing Reactive Hide, which actually did quite a bit of damage. That was, like, Blistering Scales damage could be substantial in some situations. And fixed an issue where Molten Embers was not functioning correctly. All right, now we're into the big section here, the Hunter patch notes, long awaited. Many talents have moved locations or had their pathing updated. Pathing locations of talents are also something that are generally outside the scope of these videos. We like to kind of just read the new talents, have a little think about them, miss some important interaction, get yelled at in the comments. That's the main rotation we go through here. So, new talent, Padded Armor. Survival of the Fittest gains an additional charge. Okay. Hunter has been thought of as a weak defensive class for a long time. That sort of stopped being true throughout Dragonflight. They have become one of the beefier classes. They're still weak against like rot damage. They have a relatively high ratio of incoming damage taken versus healing needed, compared to, you know, the insane specs at dealing with that, like Warlocks, like Demon Hunters. But they actually work really well at surviving one-shots and at having good defensive coverage, right? Like having a defensive for a lot of things. They've moved from very bad at that to like quite good. And so Padded Armor is going to further enhance that. Survival of the Fittest getting an extra charge. Now they're moving up to very good in terms of defensive coverage. New talent, Kodo Tranquilizer. Tranq Shot removes an additional magic effect. Devil Sword Tranquilizer. If Tranq Shot removes only an enrage effect, its cooldown is reduced by 5 seconds. Two very niche talents for PvE that, you know, you'll maybe take in some specific situations. Like maybe you take this on Raging Week, maybe. But realistically, you probably just forget this talent exists unless you need to path through it. Scout's Instincts. You cannot be slowed below 80% of your normal movement speed while Cheetah is active. That'll be nice. There will definitely be fights where you'll like that. Scrappy, casting Aim Shot reduces the cooldown of Intimidation and Binding Shot by 0.5 seconds. Kindling Flare, stealthed enemies revealed by flare remain revealed for 3 seconds after exiting the flare. Not a PvE thing. Unnatural Causes, your dot effects deal 10% increased damage. This effect is increased by 50% on targets below 20% health. So your dot effect will deal an additional 5% more damage on targets below 20% health. A little bit of execute value. Moment of Opportunity. When a trap triggers, you gain Cheetah for 3 seconds. Can only occur every 1 minute. Neat little effect. Not really a PvE thing. No Hard Feelings. When misdirection targets your pet, it reduces the damage they take by 50% for 5 seconds. That's nice. That's very nice for like open world stuff, soloing stuff. Probably not something you need to use very much in PvE situations. Maybe you can find some cool thing to do with this in M+ if you're doing some tech, but probably not something you normally would need. Territorial Instincts. Intimidation summons a pet if you do not have one out, and stuns 2 additional nearby enemies at 50% effectiveness. It's not fully implemented. We want to give players access for feedback. The intended vision is hunters summon their pet and intimidates their target. We're not interested in circumventing a hunter's need for their pet to be out to access intimidation. So, okay. And then the pet stays out? Like, is this just supposed to be for like lone wolf hunters to be able to have intimidation work? Does the pet show up and then go away? It sounds like maybe it stays out, so you'd have to dismiss it if you want to go away. Weird, yeah. Weird effect. Cool, though. Neat. Tar-coated bindings. Binding shots root durations increased by 1 second. somewhere in the beta, I think they changed binding from a stun back to a root now as well. So what they need to do to make binding shot kind of interesting again is make that root like not break on damage for a lot of damage. I think that would be good, because ever since they made it break on a small amount of damage, it felt pretty weak. Then they made it a stun, and now they're moving it back to a root. I think it needs to be one of those roots that's like really durable to, like, obviously if you deal zillions of damage to something, it can break, sure, but it shouldn't like break easily. Serrated tips, you gain 5% more crit from critical strike sources. All right, that's just raw numbers. That's good. What are trap triggers? Okay, this is the same talent we've already seen here, Moment of Opportunity. Ghillie Suit. You take 20% reduced damage while in camo. This bonus persists 3 seconds after leaving camo. Now, I don't think you can camo in combat, but in non-boss combat, you can feign camo. Now, the thing is, usually the spots in like M+, where you'd want camo, where you'd want like an extra 20% DR, would be against bosses. But you could maybe get some value against this on certain like mini-boss enemies where you drop combat, and then you could hit camo. Potentially cool. Specialized Arsenal, flat damage increase to kill command, aim shot, and wildfire bomb. This is, I guess, just an extra throughput filler talent that they can put in the class tree. Lone Survivor now reduces countershot and muzzles cooldown by 2 seconds. Survival of the Fittest has been buffed, 30% DR from 20. 20 was usually enough, 30 will almost always be enough, that's a lot of DR. Improved Trank Shot now grants 10 focus when you interrupt an effect, with counter shot or muzzle, in addition to the improving the trank shot. Okay. Quick Load now resets the cooldown of scatter shot and bursting shot. Steel trap damage reduced by 80%. Born to be Wild reduces the cooldowns of these aspects by 30 seconds, and it looks like it's now a 1-point node instead of 2. Explosive Shot now explodes early when applied to a target that is already affected by Explosive Shot. Developer's note: Survival has gotten substantially increased access to Explosive Shot. We wanted to make Explosive Shot stacking feel more responsive and exciting. Explosive Shot's projectile and explosion have been updated. Barrage, Kill Command, Improved Kill Command, Killer Instinct, and Alpha Predator have moved to the BM tree. Barrage, Master Marksman, and Hydra's Bite have moved to the MM tree. Kill Command and Alpha Predator have moved to the Survival tree. Bursting Shot is now a choice node, with Scatter Shot was in the MM tree. The following talents are now 1 point: Improved Traps, Pathfinding, Trailblazer, Wilderness Medicine, Natural Mending, and Rejuvenating Wind. And they've taken out a bunch of talents, including the Sentinel Owl stuff, and Stampede, too. Okay, so these are just the Hunter class tree changes. Wow, this is a lot of stuff. We've also got... Wow, there's a lot of stuff for all the spec trees as well. Let's start with BM. Laceration. Whenever your pets crit, they cause their target to bleed for 15% of the damage dealt. Go for the Throat. Kill Command deals increased crit damage equal to 100% of your crit chance. Really leaning into crit as a stat that BM likes, which they already do, for various kit synergy reasons. Killer Cobra. Kill Shot applies Serpent Sting for 12 seconds. Venomous Bite. Bloodshed damage increased by an additional 15%. Makes Kill Command deal 20% increased damage to the target. New talent where Bloodshed now hits 2 additional targets near the primary target. New talent, Basilisk Collar. Each damage over time effect on your target increases the damage they receive from your pet's attacks by 5 or 10%. Interesting little synergy here with, like, in Execute, Killer Cobra is going to be applying a dot as well. And you also have the Execute synergy with the class tree Unnatural Causes dot. So Hunter's maybe getting a little bit more of an Execute theme across more than just MM. It'll be interesting to see whether this is actually a relevant, percent DPS thing. Huntmaster's Call. Every third cast of Dire Beast sounds the Horn of Valor to summon a legendary wolf to aid you in battle for 15 seconds, either Hattie or Fenrir. Hattie increases the damage of all your pets by 15%. Fenrir applies a heavy bleed on your target and grants you additional haste. Super sick. This kind of effect is thematic. It's cool. This is the sort of thing that Pack Leader needs. Pack Leader needs some stuff like this, where you're just like, oh, that's cool, and pet-themed. And it currently doesn't have that, but at least BM is getting some cool stuff here. Explosive Venom. Every 5 casts of Cobra or Multi-Shot makes your next Multi-Shot or Explosive Shot apply Serpent Sting to 5 targets. Bloodshed's now in Gate 3. It's been updated, causing your target to bleed for 18 seconds and take 15% increased damage from your pet. Murder of Crows is now passive, and it's been updated to make every 5 kill command summon a Murder of Crows. Murder of Crows no longer resets its cooldown if affected target dies. Okay, so Murder of Crows was an interesting effect where it was actually very high, like, skill to apply it as things were, so that they would die right at the end of its dot. Like, that was intense gameplay. Usually just, I think, not a talent people took in Dragonflight very much. At least not one that I saw taken very much when I was looking at Hunters, which wasn't every spec every season, or wasn't every BM wasn't every season. So they're kind of just removing the Murder of Crows identity. Like, this was always the unique thing about Murder of Crows. And they're instead just making it an extra dot that happens every 5 kill commands. Obviously, that has some synergy with the Basilisk Collar type talent, you know, making BM sort of a bit more of a dot stacking spec, which is kind of interesting. I don't know. I'm not sure how I feel about that. Barrage Kill Command, Improved Kill Command, Killer Instinct, Alpha Predator are now Beast Mastery talents. Killer Instinct deals increased damage against enemies below 35% health. Barrage now also grants Beast Cleave. Nice. Vesture Wrath initial damage increased by 280%. Many 2-point talents are now 1 point. Wow, they didn't even list them out. Just many. And the following talents have been removed. One with the Pack, Sharp Barbs, Wailing Arrow, Cobra Sting. All right, let's take a look at MM. Rapid Fire Barrage. Your barrage now instead shoots rapid fires at up to 5 nearby enemies at 30% effectiveness, but has its cooldown increased to 60 seconds. Sick. Small Game Hunter. The damage of multi-shot is increased by 100%, and the damage of explosive shot is increased by 25%. Penetrating shots gain critical strike damage equal to 20% of your crit chance. Kill Zone. Your spells and attacks deal 8% more damage and ignore line of sight against any target in your volley. Also sick. Pretty cool. Legacy of the Windrunners has been redesigned. Each time rapid fire deals damage, there's a 5% chance to coalesce a wind arrow at your target. Wind arrows damage has been increased by 300%. They're no longer, I assume this is are no longer affected, probably, by aim shot modifiers. No longer grants focus or aim shot charges after firing 24 wind arrows. So wind arrows are now just damage proc things. They're not doing other stuff. Wailing Arrow has been redesigned, now passive. Oh, and there is some synergy with Wind Arrow here, which replaces your aim shot with a Wailing Arrow after generating 20 Wind Arrows. It only silences the primary target, and it now benefits from bonuses to aim shots such as trick shots. Sweet. That sounds fun. This sounds very cool gameplay. Kind of like the gameplay that should be in Dark Ranger, maybe? With Wailing Arrow? I don't know. It's tough. It seems like they've got a lot of cool thematic stuff. Like, this seems like really cool Dark Ranger theme. And this seems like really cool Pack Leader theme. But they're just putting it in the class trees, and then those hero talent trees really suck. Maybe there's some hero talent tree changes at the bottom of this patch notes, though. It's a long patch notes. Maybe there's some stuff there. Because the Hunter hero talent trees have been really boring, for me at least, so far. Okay, Readiness now causes True Shot to immediately grant you Wailing Arrow, generate 2 additional Wind Arrows while in True Shot. Wailing Arrow resets the cooldown of Rapid Fire, generates 2 charges of Aim Shot. Okay, so this really turns your True Shot into a bang, bang, bang combo of a bunch of powerful buttons. That's cool. Eagle Talon's True Focus has been redesigned. True Shot lasts an additional 3 seconds. During it, Aim Shot's focus cost is reduced by 50%, and Arcane Shot and Multi-Shot cast an additional time at 30% effectiveness. Barrage, Master Marksman, and Hydra's Bite are now MM talents, or class talents. Hydra's Bite has been redesigned. When aim shot strikes an enemy affected with your Serpent Sting, it spreads it to up to 2 nearby enemies, and the damage over time has been increased. Killer Accuracy says kill shots crit chance and crit damage are increased by 20%. Razor Fragments says kill shot damage increased to 75% from 50, moved to gate 3. Lone Wolf reduced to 5% increased damage when you do not have an active pet, was 10%. Developer's note, the opportunity cost of having your pet out as an MM Hunter is so high, it can feel as though you're locked out of all pet-based utility, especially in AoE situations. MM is always going to be the hunter spec that provides more throughput without a pet, but lowering this talent's power should help make those times where you're the only lust or need an extra defensive feel a bit less bad. Love it. Very, very nice here. Rapid fire damage reduced by 8%. Precise shots now always grants 2 stacks and reduces the focus cost by 50% of your next multi or arcane shot. And some changes with the tree locations and stuff. All right, we're on to survival. Up first, we have a mastery effect change. Mastery for survival is one of those stats that has been hot garbage. So let's see what they do. You and your pet deal increased damage and take 3% reduced damage, increased by 100% when within 25 yards of each other. Developers note, we've also implemented a mercy effect to Spirit Bond that allows the proximity bonus to persist up to 10 seconds after you or your pet breaks the mastery's boundary. Okay. Cool. Yeah, I like the idea here. You and your pet deal increased damage. And then the mastery is like always going to be good as long as you're staying within 25 yards of your pet, which you should be. Your pet is melee. You are melee. You are attacking the same target, right? And then the 3% reduced damage, it looks like that's a flat number. That doesn't scale as you get more mastery, but you're getting a 6% DR as long as you're staying close to your pet, which you should be as a serve hunter. So nice. I like that a lot. And then it also, if you randomly get like knocked back, it's like Razageth or whatever, you get knocked from your platform, your pet is AFK somewhere, your pet is just chilling on some spot, and then it'll eventually teleport to you or something. You'll still get this benefit for enough that you're not going to randomly be like, oh, I got one shot. I guess the 3% extra DR is not a big deal. The thing is, like, you dealing extra damage, if your pet isn't near you, that's a big problem. Like, keeping the damage bonus is nice, but you still need to solve that problem. Like, you're still urgently going to need to solve that problem of my pet isn't near me. I suppose on very large hitbox bosses, this could be obnoxious. Like a boss like Taros, for instance, where your pet likes to run all the way around Taros and is behind Taros and attacking it, and you're in front of Taros. You may be outside 25 yards of each other, even though you're both in melee of the same target. That feels like that could be really annoying on those sorts of boss fights. So hopefully they have something for that, because otherwise that could kind of suck. New talent, Sulfur-Lined Pockets. Every third quick shot is replaced with an explosive shot at 100% effectiveness. That's fun. New talent, Grenade Juggler. Wildfire Bomb deals 5% increased damage, has a 25% chance to reset the cooldown of Explosive Shot, reduces focus cost to 0. Explosive Shot reduces the cooldown of Wildfire Bomb by 4 seconds. Also cool. Explosive Shot, they said in the class tree, they're really trying to make it more of a thing that is about survival, which is fun. Survival, when it was at its most fun for me, was Explosive Shot based. It was also ranged back then, but still, we'll take what we can get. Exposed Flank. Your flanking strike exposes a weakness in your enemy's defenses, increasing the damage of kill command by 10%, and allowing your kill command to cleave for 10 seconds on 2 additional targets. New talent, Contagious Reagents. Reapplying Serpent Sting spreads it up to 2 nearby enemies. So they're putting a lot of stuff in all 3 of these hunter spec trees that are really like 3 targety, or stuff where it's like at its most efficient spreading the 3 targets, right? So like in a 5 target pool, it still works, but it takes a little bit longer to spread to everybody. It's an interesting niche that they're kind of building up for Hunter. Hunter has been in a weird spot, especially MM. For a while, MM was like, if I'm facing 2 targets, like I'm in despair. And then if I'm fighting 3 targets, we're happy again. But 2 is like a really sad number. And it looks like they're kind of moving Hunter, where it's like Hunter is now going to be at its happiest at like 1, 2, or 3. And then it also has a bunch of uncapped AoE stuff that, can do bigger damage beyond that, especially like BM with Beast Cleave, right? Like obviously that's just a huge amount of AoE damage in all cases, survival as well. MM maybe still a little bit more capped, maybe a little bit unhappy in super, super huge AoE, but the specs also have some stuff where it's like, oh, this is actually kind of nice on 3 targets. Like all of my stuff is just working at full throttle. Outland Venom, each dot effect increases the crit damage they receive from you by 2%. Merciless Blow, casting Butchery makes your next Raptor Strike or Mongoose Bite hit up to 3 nearby targets. That's kind of cool. Again, up to 3 nearby targets. Okay, so this is actually a 4 target effect. Sick'em, Kill Shot crits reduce or reset the cooldown of Kill Command. Symbiotic Adrenaline, the cooldown of Coordinated Assault is reduced by 60%. Relentless Primal Ferocity, while Coordinated Assault is active, Kill Command grants 2 stacks of Tip the Spear. You gain 10% haste, and Tip the Spear's damage bonus is increased by 50%. Tip the Spear has been redesigned to Kill Command increases the damage of your next non-pet spell by 15%, stacking up to 3 times. So actually, while Coordinated Assault is active, you really want to make sure you don't ever hit Kill Command twice in a row, which I think you already didn't want to do, to make sure that you don't overcap this. You may now consume 1 stack of Tip at a time, and multiple stacks of Tip no longer increases damage bonus. Okay, so you actually want to go Kill Command, and then 2 non-pet spells in CA at least to be spending both of your stacks. We're pleased with the theme and gameplay that Tip provides, and enjoy its role as a meaningful outlet for kill command resets. As such, we're expanding its use case and introducing a range of effects across the tree to make it more of a core rotational concept. I like this idea. I like the gameplay. I think that's cool. Flanking Strike now gains double the damage bonus from Tip the Spear. Okay. Flanker's Advantage has been redesigned. Kill command has a 10% increased chance to immediately reset its cooldown, increased by 100% when kill command crits. Tip's damage bonus is increased by up to 100% based on your crit chance. So they're adding some more crit synergy, kind of to all 3 trees. Spearhead's been redesigned. You and your pet charge your enemy target, applying a heavy bleed that increases your chance to crit them by 30% for 10 seconds. Increasing your chance to crit targets is weird when you have a tree that has like crit chance scaling, because that's not going to interact with that. I guess that's okay, but that is kind of weird. Deadly Duo, the cooldown of Spearhead is reduced by 30%, and it increases your crit damage against the target by 30% for 10 seconds. Yeah, so, I mean, huge crit synergies in the tree here. Viper's Venom has been redesigned. Raptor Strike and Mongoose Bite apply Serpent Sting. I wonder if that will work with Contagious Reagents as well. Aspect, I assume it will. Aspect of the Eagle's been redesigned, increases the range of Raptor Strike and Mastery to 40 yards for 15 seconds. Okay, yeah, so you'll still be able to function. I mean, you'll be able to do pretty much everything at range, I think, with Aspect of the Eagle up, except for auto attack, and I guess like Flanking Strike maybe as well. Bombardier's been redesigned. Casting Coordinated Assault grants 2 charges of Wildfire Bomb. When it ends, Explosive Shot has no cooldown and costs 0 focus for 4 seconds. Wow, cool. Love it. I like these effects where you sort of get like there's a little bit of this in the Sun Fury Fire Mage thing where it's like you get hyperthermia at the end of your Phoenix. I think this is a kind of similar cool thing where it's like, okay, CA's over, but enjoy, 4 seconds of Explosive Shot spamming as a kind of a little consolation prize. Ruthless Marauder's been redesigned. Wildfire Bomb CDR is now 1 second by default, no longer increased by the second talent point. Coordinated Assault's been updated, now also allows Kill Shot to be usable on targets regardless of health. Wildfire Infusion's been redesigned. Mongoose Bite and Raptor Strike now has a 15% chance to reset Kill Command's cooldown. Kill Command reduces the cooldown of Wildfire Bomb by 2 seconds. Kill Command Alpha Predator are now serve talents. Wildfire Bomb's dot is now a rolling periodic. I don't know exactly what that means. I think that means that the last tick will give you fractional damage, but I don't actually know for sure. It's possible to refresh it, and then if you refresh it such that it only gets 2/3 of a tick in before it expires, it'll do like a 2/3 tick when it expires, maybe? I don't know. I could be just making stuff up. I don't know. Grenade Juggler and Bombardier now use an activation overlay. Many 2-point talents are now 1 point, and the following talents have been removed: Carve, Coordinated Kill, Birds of Prey, Intense Focus, and Sharp Edges. So I like all these changes to Hunter. I think all 3 hero talent, or all 3 spec trees are getting some cool stuff. Now it's just hero talent. They gotta make those hero talent trees better, because those hero talent trees are real bad, especially the Dark Ranger and Pack Leader. Sentinel's okay, but yeah, this is a great start. This is very good for Hunters. Very happy. Nice, refresh to the entire class and all 3 specs. And in particular, I think they've picked some really fun stuff to kind of make what the rotation is going to be about in War Within. Tip of the Spear, I think pretty fun gameplay. Explosive Shot, pretty fun gameplay. Should be a good time. Mage. We have some Spellslinger changes, which is just nerfs to the stuff. This makes sense. I was doing some Spellslinger testing on beta, and the numbers were very large, so I'm not surprised this is getting toned down a little bit. Sun Fury is getting Mana Addiction is going to give less haste per stack for Fire Mages. It was taking up a lot of Sun Fury's power budget, was creating a powerful snowball effect to the rest of Fire's kit. Snowball effect, Fire's kit. That doesn't make any sense. This adjustment should bring Sun Fury more in line with the damage output of the other hero talents and open us up to making the more active parts of Sun Fury more exciting. Fair enough. Monk, Shadowpan, Flurry charges are now accumulated based on attack power rather than max health. Yeah, the max health thing was weird because it created this weird incentive to have like low max health. Like Sark Cloak would have been a bigger damage increase for Shadowpans than it was for anybody else if that sort of thing existed. This is, yeah, I think this makes sense. Mistweaver. Mana Tea no longer grants its mana reduction effect if its channel begins before a raid encounter or key starts. Fair enough. Windwalker, a new talent, Power of the Thunder King. Crackling Jade Lightning now chains to 4 additional targets, and its channel time is reduced by 50%. Weird. New talent, Darting Hurricane. After you cast Strike of the Windlord, the global cooldown of your next two tiger problems is reduced. Your damaging spells and abilities have a chance to grant 1 stack of Darting Hurricane. Super weird. So you're just going to randomly be getting these like fast tiger bombs in there. I guess that's sort of like martial artsy, right? Like, you know, you get like an opportunity, you go bam, right? Little fast punch. I don't know. I don't do any martial arts or anything like that. I don't know if you guys can tell, so I don't have any idea if that's theme or not for Windwalker, but it seems cool. And then I wonder if this is like if there's going to be a Emperor's Capacitor thing again. You know, if that does enough damage, this thing going to hitting 5 targets in half the time from 1 target in the full time, that could be a pretty big game. That could be a lot of damage potentially. I always thought that was really clunky though. I never liked the capacitor thing builds for Windwalker. Paladin, Herald of the Sun is going to be having activating Crusade applies 4 Dawn Lights, activating Avenging Wrath applies 2 Dawn Lights, and activating Radiant Glory applies 1 Dawn Light. Okay. Priest. We have a couple new talents. Cauterizing Shadows. When your Pain or Purge the Wicked expires or is refreshed with less than 5 seconds remaining, a nearby ally within 40 yards is healed. Okay. A little bit of extra healing throughput. That will be nice, I guess, especially for like Disc. But, you know, maybe you get value on this on just Shadow Priest as well. A little bit of free raid healing. And I guess also on Holy, too. New talent, Phantom Reach, increases the range of most spells by 15%. That's nice. They forgot that this should be in the Evoker tree, but that'll be nice for priests. A little bit of further standing. Manipulation's been redesigned, now causes you to take 1 to 2% less damage from targets affected by Pain, Purge, or Holy Fire. Very small DR, but a passive DR that is full uptime is extremely high value. Powered Life healing increased by 15%. Mind Games is now a PvP talent, and Shattered Perceptions has been removed. All right, we have some changes to the Oracle hero talent tree. Premonition of Insight is now the first spell in the sequence. It reduces cooldowns by more. Premonition of Solace has been redesigned, now causes your next single target healing spell to grant a shield that absorbs damage and has a 15% DR for 15 seconds. That could potentially be something that you could get some play with in, like I could see this being pretty valuable in high M plus if you're really min-maxing how you play, and then also just you'll always get value out of it, even if you're not. Premonition of Piety is also being buffed as well. Fate Binder is being buffed too, and they've updated some spell icons and tooltips to more accurately reflect its functionality. Cool. I think the Oracle playstyle actually is looking more and more fun, much better than the pre-redesign version. Shadow. Insanity now deals damage every 0.5 seconds for 2 seconds, was every 0.75 seconds for 3 seconds, but it generates less insanity over its duration. But note that its duration has actually been reduced by more than its generation has been, right? Like, it's going to generate 75% of the insanity over 66% of the time. So it's actually generating more insanity per second. So this is a buff to Mind. This is just a straight up buff to Mind Flay. It's a quality of life buff, and it's a... Oh, no, it's not a quality of life buff because the insanity one is the one that you proc, right? So you actually don't get... You can't just spam this thing. You only get it when you get your... So it's like... It's going to be slightly more efficient over those... It's going to generate more insanity per second, but less insanity per proc. And so it's probably a little bit of a nerf to insanity, but maybe a quality of life increase, and also makes the rotation a little bit less... Like, the times when you're most dizzy when playing Shadow involves having Mind Flay Insanity procs and Mind Blast procs, and you're just sitting there with like 7 buttons lit up, and you're like, what am I supposed to press? What am I supposed to press? How do I not lose value on all my different things that I'm supposed to be doing right now? And this will definitely help lower that. Now, Shadow Priests often scoff at when they do that, because that's where you demonstrate like your skill with the spec is doing the right things in those spots where other people are getting dizzy. But that will help those spots. I think this is a fair way to do it as well. Like, even among Shadow Priest elitists, I feel like this isn't going to go over that badly. I don't know, though. I'm not in the Shadow Priest Discord. If you are, let me know. Let me know if there's a panic happening over this. I assume it's fine. Void Torrent damage increased by 30%. So we're updating Mind Flame Insanity so it fits into Shadow's rotation better. There's several spells competing for the spotlight. We're cutting the length to create room. Void Torrent's damage has fallen off as we've increased the power of spells, so we're increasing its damage to return it to a high priority position in the rotation. Yeah, I love it. This seems like just really good changes to Shadow. Warlock. Mortal Coil Projectile has a new visual. Hero talents. Hellcaller. Mark of Perotharn has been redesigned. Crit damage dealt by Wither is increased. Wither has a chance to gain a stack when it crits. Stacks gained this way do not activate Blackened Soul. Mark of Xavius has been redesigned. Agony damage increased. Wither damage increased by more. Blackened Soul deals increased damage per stack of Wither. Soul Harvester, on the other hand, is getting some nerfs and visual changes. Demo. Pack of Era Druid has been redesigned. When Doom expires, you have a chance to summon a Doom Guard that casts 5 Doom Bolts before departing. So they're making it into a chance, which is probably fine because I think this is still good. They've made Doom into something where you actually want to do the thing with Doom, which is, make it expire fast. And now to balance it, they probably need to put this on a chance because you can have Doom expiring a lot in a short time, especially if you're good, especially as gear gets better and stuff. So this is probably fair. The other option would have been to nerf the damage of the Doom Guard, nerf the amount of Doom Bolts it casts, but I don't think they want that. I don't think they want you to summon a Doom Guard and have it hit like a wet noodle. So instead, they're going to have you summon it a little bit less often. It seems fair to me because previously it was capped how often you could summon it with the old way that Doom was working in the earlier builds. And I think that this is going to be a more fun way of doing it with the current Doom. So I think this is fair. Charhound's damage has been reduced, and Gloomhound's damage has been reduced, and Doom's damage has been reduced. Again, okay, so just a couple of little nerfies there. Destro. Chaos Bolts cast by Overfiend no longer gain modifiers active on its summoner, and the visual for casting Dimensional Rift has been updated. Warrior. All right, we've got some Warrior changes as well. Holy moly. This is a big patch notes. Sudden Death can now stack 2 times. Love it. A little bit less punishing for missing a Sudden Death proc. Especially, this is a nice buff for Slayer, which is kind of a part... Slayer is sort of themed around Execute and Bladestorm, and anytime you can make a proc go from stacking once to stacking twice, you actually add a lot of quality of life and just raw throughput, because now you're not going to get griefed if you're in a spot in your rotation where you need to press something else. And then you might proc it and you're like, this is terrible. Now you can just get a second proc and not be losing the value. Anytime, this is true for abilities as well. Anytime an ability goes from having 1 stack to 2, and then you can, be regenerating a charge with the charge already active, it's actually a huge quality of life increase. It's not just quality of life too, like it's also just straight up throughput. The visual for Shockwave will now properly match its radius, both with and without Rumbling Earth. The impact visual has also been updated. Thunderous Roar's visual has also been adjusted. Hero talents, Mountain Thane. They've renamed Call of Thunder to Crashing Thunder. Its bonus has been reduced. Burst of Power has been buffed on how much it increases Bloodthirst damage. Strength of the Mountain increases Rampage and Bloodthirst damage by more. And Thunder Blast is going to do more damage for Prot Warrior. Cool. Sick. Slayer, they've slightly redesigned Imminent Demise. Instead of increasing Sudden Death's chance to trigger, now every 3 Slayer strikes will grant Sudden Death. Cool. A little bit more predictable, a little bit more flattened out, a little bit less RNG in that rotation, and a little bit more, I guess, reliable Sudden Deaths too. Arms. Cleave now replaces Whirlwind. We feel that Arms has an overwhelming abilities they must use in AoE rotation. We're making Cleave replace Whirlwind to help alleviate that. Its cooldown has been increased to 4.5 from 3. We're happy with Cleave's position as the focus is Arms AoE. 3 second put too much pressure on the rotation. Increasing the CD will allow more room for overpower and rotational CDs like Sweeping Strikes and Warbringer. Dance of Death has been redesigned. When an enemy dies while affected by your Bladestorm, all damage you deal is increased by 5% for the remainder of the Bladestorm and for 2 seconds afterwards. When an enemy dies while affected by your Ravager, its duration is extended by 2 seconds. These can trigger a maximum of 3 times per use. This is an interesting talent. These tend to be pretty weak talents for most cases, especially with Spiteful gone. Like, Spiteful would have been maybe a time where you'd get some gas out of this, especially. But I don't know. It's just rare for stuff to be dying while... Like, you kind of need something to die right near the start of your Bladestorm to get value out of this. The Ravager, it's fine if it dies in the middle or the end, but yeah, I don't know. This sort of effect is just, it tends to be too niche. Maybe there will be some fights though, maybe where you can get some value out of this. Fury. They've changed some positions. We've received feedback that pathing to some abilities at the bottom of the tree is difficult. We're repositioning them to allow more synergistic pathing. Great. We've been seeing extremely high uptime of Wreck, which leads to a cycle of high rage generation and lack of variance in the rotation. We'd like it to be an ability that's active only some of the time to create some variance in Furious rotation. We're adjusting several talents to reduce overall uptime. We'll be closely monitoring its rotational cadence and damage output and making adjustments where necessary. Anger management has been nerfed by 50% in terms of how much rage it takes to get cooldown reduction. Unbridled Ferocity no longer triggers from Onslaught, and its chance to trigger is reduced to 6% from 20%. It was a major offender in Recklessness uptime, and triggering from Onslaught added additional talent choice pressure in the Tier 3 talents. We're reducing the proc chance to put it on par with other Tier 3 talents and removing Onslaught from the list of triggers to reduce talent choice pressure. That's surprisingly hard to say in Tier 3. And then all ability damage up by 15%, rampage damage increased by 10%. So they're trying to make sure that this isn't like nerfing the spec too much. I actually think this is fair. Like whenever you have a spec that is super high uptime of their CDs, that can make it so that it no longer feels good to be in Recklessness. It just feels bad to be out of Recklessness, right? It's like when you're, an alcoholic or whatever, and it goes from feeling good when you have alcohol to just feeling bad when you don't. That's the same sort of thing that can happen with these things. I think Fire Mage historically has been one of the few specs where it's like, okay, combustion has just always felt good, even when you've had pretty high uptime of it. But for other specs, I think that it does make sense to change Recklessness into into something that is up less often, but when it is up, you're feeling it, right? It's feeling good. Protection. Dance to Death has been redesigned. When an enemy dies while affected by your Ravager, its duration is extended by 2 seconds, can trigger a maximum of 3 times per use, and it's now a choice with Storm of Steel. Again, I don't think that you'll probably really take this. I don't think that's, especially with the way the bottom of the Prot Warrior tree looks, like you got some good nodes that you're already not taking down there. I don't see Dance of Death being something that you'd consider like this. They should make this for Prot give like a DR. Like if it was like enemies in your Ravager deal 10% less damage to you or something like that, like maybe we'd be thinking about it. But yeah, I don't know. Items, trinkets. Many item effects have had their tuning significantly adjusted due to scaling changes, fixed some issues, blah, 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 passive int changed to crit, blah, 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 whatever. PvP stuff, Mind Games is now the PvP talent, yep, cool. And they buffed it as well for PvP, okay. And finally, the camera will now allow for the player character to be more obstructed by environment before colliding and pushing the camera forward. And you can use a console command to turn that feature on or off and modify the sensitivity. Sick. So maybe you can have the camera like be a little bit less annoying in narrow confines and kind of give you a little bit more slack before it starts to push right up against your character and you can't see anything. Very cool. That will help if they want to bring back certain old dungeons where this was a very common offender. All right. That is the patch notes for today. Hope you've enjoyed this video. Let me know what you think down in the comments below. Thanks for watching. See you in the next one. Bye.